I'm Vasel, Jason Levine. Welcome to Every Game is Awesome. Today we're taking a look at Mombasa, which is a game from R&R Games. Now R&R Games is known for one thing. They're party games.
Party games.
Mombasa is not a party game. Every once in a while R&R Games publishes a heavier Euro economic type game. Mombasa is, how would you describe it? An African stock market game?
Yes, I consider it Blood Diamond, the board game.
Oh, that's an interesting way to put it. So yeah, this is a game that actually has a lot of variety because there's a lot of ways you can change the starting setup. But it's definitely is a straight Euro game. In fact, here's how you play it. So let's start first of all with how you score points. There's a score pad. You'll keep track of the different ways of getting points at the end of the game. One of the main ways of getting points is by the different companies here. There are 4 different companies, trading companies that are going out into Africa. And throughout the course of the game, different of these companies are going to be placed here on the board like this. And the coins that are revealed underneath them, and there's not coins underneath every one of these houses, but there's coins under them, and at the very end there's double coins. That amount will be multiplied by the number of shares a player has to give them points. At the beginning of the game, you see these boards here, and they're actually double-sided boards. They're very different companies. There's 8 different companies, and they're going to be attached to one of the 4 companies. So there's going to be kind of a varied setup here, in where players are going to be essentially investing into different companies, and as you invest into different companies and move along here, at the bottom you'll see the number of shares you have in that company, which is worth points at the end of the game. But also there's special abilities that they'll give you, and sometimes they give you money when you get to certain spots. Sometimes you have to pay money to go to one of the spots, and sometimes they give you places here where you can place workers and do something, but only if you are past a certain point. Each of them has a very different thing, but this is one of the main ways to get points over the course of the game. Another way to get points is on each player's player board. They have a diamond track, and there's different things going to be allowing you to move up your diamonds. And then there are numbers on the board, and if you pass that number, that's how many points you will get. And then you have this library track with this ink container that will be moving along. You'll start with a book, and as the game goes by, you'll be adding more books and trying to move up on these books, which will give you bonuses. But also, again, if you pass different spots, you will get that many points as the game goes by. So how does the game work? Well, each player is going to have a starting hand of cards. These cards correspond to your color. You also get a card based on turn order, and you'll have these, and you'll get more cards as the game goes by. But in each round of the game, and there are 7 rounds, players are going to place a card under each of their 3 slots. Now, when your diamonds get to this spot here, you'll have another slot. And when your books get past this book here, you'll have a 5th slot. So you could have 4 slots, one of the extra ones, or 5 by having both slots. Once everyone has done these, you're going to show the different cards, and each card is going to allow you to take different types of actions. After players are done taking these actions, players are also going to they have workers that they can put on the board to take actions. Once everyone has passed, then each player is going to pick one of the discard piles here. Let's say I pick this one. I'll take that, add it to my hand, and then the other cards all slide up like this. So that means next time when I play, maybe let's say I play these 3 cards, before they move up, I have to decide, I really want that card, but this one gives me 2 cards. So I'll take this one back, and then these all move up like this, and you can see now this pile is getting more tempting. So when you put the cards down, where they go matters, because that's the discard pile that you're going to be putting them into. Now, when players take an action, many of the times the action is going to be in regards to goods. When you use goods, when you'll use cards, you turn them face down to show that you've used them. You use all the same type at one time. So if I have 3 bananas, I can turn these over to say I get 3 goods worth to spend that turn. If I have 2 cotton, I can also use the 2 cotton, but that would be a separate maneuver. So I might move 2 cotton, I might move 3 bananas. And then the same thing, you have exploration. You have to use all your exploration at one time. And then there is this card here which lets you put down books and move your inkwell. Essentially, when you move your inkwell, you have to look. This says you need 3 bananas face up. I do. So I can move my inkwell to that point. If there was more that needed 3 bananas, I can move it even farther. I can move it as far as possible based on my displayed cards. And the last book I stop on gives me a bonus. This one here would give me a coin. And again, you get points by moving this forward. Now you're going to use those exploration points to expand the different companies. And you can expand any company you want, because as you expand the companies, you're going to make those companies bigger. When you cross, there's single borders and double borders. When you cross a single border, it costs 1 exploration point. When you cross a double border, it costs 2 exploration points. It costs exploration points to go into someone else. They will be fighting back and forth. You can't have more than one trading house. So maybe I really want to make Cape Town bigger because that's the one I'm going to have a lot of shares in as time goes by. Or maybe I want to make, have them both go. And also the spots where you put them give you bonuses, which can be coins, moving on the diamond track, moving on the book track. So that's one thing that you're going to be using your exploration points for. The goods points you're going to use you can increase on one of the share tracks, like I mentioned earlier down here. But you can also buy more cards. And each of these cards are placed here. So for example, let's say I want to buy this coffee card. The base cost of the coffee card is 2, and in this spot it costs an additional 1. Once I buy that, it goes to my hand, and I have extra cards I can use. Here's a 2 cotton card, and the cards get better as the game goes by because you stack them up in that way. Some of the cards are shares of different companies, and sometimes they can, here's one that's a 4 coffee. You can see that's much better. And near the end of the game, most of the cards simply are just shares of a specific company. So you're going to be using those 2 features, trading to the exploration points to expand the trading companies, the goods points to buy more cards and move on to share prices, and then you'll be using the book quill card to buy more books to put in your track and move your inkwell farther to get points that way. And there's some bonuses and things involved there too. I also mentioned the worker placement. When you have workers that you can put out, although you can only put out a worker if you have perhaps the money to place them out. So for example, this one costs 2. Sometimes you need to have the most bananas showing or something like that, each of these. So for example, let's say I have the most bananas showing in my display and I have 5 of them. Well, I put a worker here and it lets me move 3 on the diamond track. Some of these give you a card. So for example, I go here, pay 2. Then next turn, I get this diamond card. It's like an extra card you can use besides the cards, the 3, 4, 5 in your display, and you have a one-time chance to use that card. Some, like this one here, you simply can't take it on the very first turn if you're the first player, but it gives you first player marker next turn. And so players are going to be placing these workers out, and like I said, once you get to certain spots on the track, you might be able to do different things and trade in cards for extra money. So basically get rid of a card from your hand just to take a bunch of money. The game will continue for 7 rounds. At the end of 7 rounds, players will add up their diamond point track points, their inkwell track points, money turns into points, the shares of each company turn into points, and whoever has the most points is the winner of the game. All right, there's a lot to talk about in Mombasa. We'll start with the components. I have to say, like many of these games, for me, the game just merely looked okay. It didn't look very exciting or interesting. The pieces are those wooden houses you see everywhere.
Yeah.
The books look cool. I actually did not like the fact that the books were really small. It was a little hard to see what all the icons were on them.
See, I like the books. I like the way the map is designed. I like the map of Africa, and it really, it feels like you're in Africa the way the map looks. I like the board a lot. Okay, but that's minor. I realize that this is a straight Euro game. It's more about the mechanisms. One of the things I really did enjoy about the game was the variety in it. Not only are there 4 different stock companies, which can really rotate to be on any of the boards, but then you can flip them over. So there's really 8 different stock companies. Each stock company has different bonuses and different benefits. And so you're sitting there going, ooh, I want to invest in that company because it gives me extra of the bonus markers that I can put out. Or I want to invest in that one because it allows me to sell cards for a much higher price. But at the same time, that company itself is doing horrible. Yeah.
So I don't want to bid on that one. So I like the choices that offers you.
I do too. I like the variety in the setup is one of the most unique things, is that you could have, I don't even know how many setups it actually would be, but it's 8 times 4 times 7 times whatever. It's a whole bunch of them. It's probably in the thousands of different varieties you could have. And each variety is different because sometimes you might have the one where you could get extra explorer guys, or sometimes you could have one where you get extra moving up the other stock markets, or sometimes you have one where you get extra money for the goods, and sometimes you have one where you get the extra circle pieces to take more of the worker placement areas. So every game is unique in that aspect, and that really adds a lot to the flavor of the game.
I can't do the math in my head, but you're right, it's a lot. Now, the game is kind of worker placement and kind of card placement. The card placement to me is a really fascinating part of the game because you're putting the cards down and you're thinking a couple things. Okay, these are the cards I need to put down so that I can use them this turn. But also, what column am I going to put them in? Because when they slide up, I want to be able to pull those cards back. Because I would say around turn 4 or 5, some cards you put out, you are never going to get again.
Yes.
Because you're never going to pull those back. And at the beginning of the game, you're like, oh, I need to put this one here because I'm definitely pulling that column back.
Well, to me, that's one of the most important strategies in the game. I love this unique, it's sort of a deck builder, but not really a deck builder.
It's a hand builder.
It's a hand builder, but what's cool is each round you need to buy more cards to put into your hand while you're also taking some back to get your cards you need. And what's interesting about the cards, I feel, is that you really need to worry about making sets of majorities because getting those majority bonuses is one of the key things in the game because you move up on a stock track and you do a bunch of things. So do you want the majority in bananas or do you want the majority in cocoa beans? And if so, you want to kind of line up your bananas so you could pull up all the bananas in one shot and get a big banana turn. So there's a lot of strategy in how you
and getting the first
and pull it back.
Getting first player marker is really critical in this game.
Yes,
it's really important to be first. So that's often you'll see will sometimes be the first thing that the player who's not first picks.
Yes, because if you're first and you have the first option of buying a card, especially when there's a card that has stock on it out there, and you're also in the first position to do everything to move on the map, you get if you're tied in the majority bonuses to get the majority, you get it because you get to do it first because ties are friendly in that and anyone can take it. There's so many advantages to going first in this game, and it's one of the key spots. Plus you get either $1 or a book out of going first, so you get something out of it too.
That's true. Now, I don't think the game is perfect. There's a couple things that I'm not keen on. They're minor things. One is I feel like the game is an engine, right? So you're going, and just when you get started, the game ends. I almost feel a little disappointed when the game ends because I'm like, oh, but I was about to use these cards and do this. And I don't know that I want the game to go longer. It's just that it leaves me almost like, oh, you were having fun? You're done.
See, I don't feel quite that way. I kind of feel that it's a perfect length for the game because you assort your cards, you're pulling back enough cards to do more things, and you kind of have to figure out where you're going to put your cards to pull them back. But to me, I look at it as a challenge, like, can I get my diamond thing all the way to the end, to the 50 mark? Can I get my books and get my bookkeeper all the way up to the 50 mark? And it's kind of a challenge to get all the way onto these pads and also to get a lot of stock and get your guys up the stock chart. And I feel like it's just the right amount of rounds to do enough to feel like you've accomplished something and work towards a goal in the game.
Now, here's the thing. You mentioned the diamonds, and I have to be careful here because I haven't played the game dozens and dozens of times, so I'm not sure on this, but it really feels like it's easier to do diamonds than books, and yet they give pretty much the same points.
It depends, because here's the differences of diamonds and books in my opinion. One is that diamonds you might get up the chart quicker, but people are going to fight for those cards that have the diamond miners on it, so you have to be early in the turn in order to buy them. While books, every time you move your bookkeeper up, not only are you getting a bonus thing from the books, when you stop at a book thing, you get those bonus things, so you're getting some extra money or some extra things, but you also get the extra book points to put more books, so the books kind of chain along, and you really have to pattern your books to make a chain and go and chain your way up to the top.
That's true, and because of that, this is certainly a game that rewards repeat playings. The first time you play this, you'll probably lose because you kind of have to say, oh, that's the card. Oh, stocks really are that important. Oh, okay, I should make sure I control a lot of the different mining symbols on the map. There's a lot of different things in the game, and I feel that it offers repeat playings, it has a lot of variety, and so I would say despite the fact that it doesn't look flashy, I think there's a deep, solid game in there. What's your awesomeness rating?
My awesomeness rating on Mombasa is a 9. I really like this game. I mean, I know that it's going to be a higher rating than yours because I love this game.
You don't know that, but yeah, you're right.
It's when I'm going to use the word, it's awesome. I mean, you have stock market manipulation because when you move on the board, you could control where the houses come from, so you could make this stock more valuable or this stock less valuable. You're also trying to get up those charts. You're also trying to do either books or diamonds or both. And the game is very balanced. Like, you could do a pure diamond strategy or a pure book strategy or a pure only going up the chart stock strategy, and all the scores will come out in the same range. It's not like one strategy is dominant over another. And I played the game now over 30 times, and I don't think there's one strategy that's more dominant than the other, because every strategy can win in this game, and I really like that aspect of it.
Well, there you go. I mean, I can't argue that. I'm going to say 7.5 because I really do enjoy the game. I like the stock market 2 aspect. I'm just obviously not as much in love with it as Jason is. But it is a very solid game. I think there's a lot of these games that are too fiddly. This one is just right, I think, where it's at, with enough choices and a lot of fun. So, that's Mombasa. I'm Tom Vasel.
Jason Levine.
And this has been Every Game is Awesome.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.